All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to my little portion for the Creative Artist Collection. Um, I was extremely flattered and honored that Tracy asked me to be a part of it because there's, 29 very talented photographers in this group, and I hope you guys get a lot out of it. Pretty excited to edit this image for you today. A little background about me. My name is Katherine Vess. My business name is Katherine Vess Photography. Very catchy. Took me a while to think of that name. I live in Northern California, and I probably always will. I pretty much love it here. I live in Sacramento, and I am a portrait photographer that specializes in maternity, newborn, and babies through the first year. I am a Canon shooter. I have two 5D Mark IIIs, and when I go outside for maternity sessions, I typically have both on me, so I'm not having to change lenses quite so often. And I edit on an iMac. It is, well, bless its heart, I think it's almost 7 years old now, which is a dinosaur in computer years. So, and you will notice that. I'm going to apologize ahead of time for all the progress bars that you will see during my segment. That's probably going to be half of the time that I take to edit this image is watching the progress bars go along. So I'm sorry, don't hate me. Let's go ahead and go into, I use Adobe Creative Cloud and ACR. I use Bridge to kind of categorize my stuff. I don't use Lightroom. So let's go ahead and go into Bridge. These images are actually on an external hard drive. Even that doesn't help my computer go faster. To show you some of the tech stuff for this image, I shot it with my Canon 200mm f2 lens, which was worth every penny. I love that lens. I called it the Beast. I shot it at f2.5. Shutter speed was 1/400th of a second. Just a little tip, you should always shoot at least double of what your focal length is with your shutter speed. And ISO was 1000. We were pretty close to total sunset here, so I had to bump that up a little bit, but the 5D Mark III does a good job at handling the higher ISOs, and I wasn't too worried about that. Alright, so this is the before, this is the raw, and this is the look that we're going for after. Pretty rich and dramatic look, which is what I wanted for this image. We shot it in, I think it was October. I didn't look at the date when we were just there. So I really want to get a nice, rich, warm look and feel to this image. So I don't do much in ACR. I shoot in auto white balance when I'm outside because I don't want to be worrying about what Kelvin I should be at when I'm in the shade, when I'm out in the sun, blah, blah, blah. It's just me being kind of lazy and not wanting to worry about it. So if I adjust anything in ACR, it might be my white balance. Exposure, if I need to bring it up or down. I brought this down just a skosh here. And the main thing that I do in ACR is sharpening. I bring this slider, the amount slider, up to 50. And the key thing, my little trick here, I don't know if you guys know, that on a Mac, if you hold down the Option key while you change the masking, you get this white-black mask here, which is nice because obviously I want this background to stay, blurred as much as possible. I don't really want it to sharpen the background, but just kind of sharpen the outline of my subject and some of her features. So if I hold down the Option key, what is black is not being sharpened, what is white is being sharpened, and it's really nice to see that. About 95% of the time, this masking number is going to be right about the same number of the amount of sharpening that I apply. And why 50? I don't remember, honestly. I learned that from somebody a long time ago in a photography class that I took in college, and that's just the amount that the teacher suggested to apply, and he taught me the little masking trick. All right, so we're going to go ahead and open this image. And we're mostly going to be using actions. I'm an actions girl. I like time savers, and I don't know, maybe I'm just not that creative on my own. So we're going to be using Greater Than Gatsby. Love Josh, love his actions, and I particularly like his Innocence collection. I use it on almost all of my outdoor images. So, and he was so nice and gracious. He is going to give all of you a discount code for his action set, so be on the lookout for that. Most of the time I use the emotional color base action here. I'm going to go ahead and push play while I talk because it takes quite a while to run on my poor computer. It does quite a bit in the background. Sometimes it may be all that you need because it does such a nice job. It's going to really add some contrast and some richness to the image, and does a beautiful job just on its own. Oftentimes I may just run this color base action and maybe one other action at a reduced opacity, and I call it good because I don't know, I just love it. And as a warning, I am on my second cup of coffee with the size of coffee mugs I use to drink coffee. It's really more like my 5th cup of coffee. You are warned. Coffee, coffee, coffee. I mean, it was either I edit this in the morning when I'm drinking coffee, or I edit this at night when I'm having a glass of wine. So I thought it was safer with coffee. I don't know, we'll see. And you can see how long this action on a nice newer computer that what most people have, this action does not take this long to play. It's just time for me to buy a new computer. I've been dragging my feet. Probably because I spend all my money on props for my newborn sessions and maternity dresses. So, it was pretty funny when we were putting these butterflies in her hair. We were just running out of light really quickly, and I had her husband helping me, and oh, bless her heart, we were just jamming those things in her head. I'm surprised we didn't take out an eyeball or jam one down her ear. We're trying to do it so fast. All right, woohoo! It's done loading. I often click this little eyeball over here next to the action to show me the effects on the image. And you can see, really kind of richens it up, gives it a nice vignette, and I typically leave that as is. The first time that I edit an image from a series of similar images, I use my history and the snapshot tool here, this little camera. So I usually have my actions and my history panel up here, and I take a snapshot so that I can keep track of what I do to an image, what I like, what I don't like, and then I can apply that same workflow to all the rest of my images so they all have a consistent look. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and do layer, flatten. Okay. And the next step that we're going to do, we're going to really, this that action already started to bring out some of the red tones in the greenery, but we're going to enhance that even more. We're going to use selective color for that as soon as this is done flattening. Just going to take another sip of my coffee. Feel free to do the same. I don't know if you noticed, I use sarcasm as a defense mechanism when I'm nervous. Okay, so here we go. So I'm going to come over here to my adjustments, and this is the selective color adjustment. So even though the background is green, really there's a lot of yellows and green. And so that's what I have it on to pull up. We're going to pull up the magenta. You can slide it way over, you can slide it, you can play around with these sliders to really see what they do, how they affect the image. Feel free to play around. That is pretty much what I do when I'm initially editing the image. It just is kind of try again. So pulled up both my magenta and my yellow quite a bit, and if I click this eyeball again, you notice it doesn't do a whole lot for the amount that I adjusted it, but it's starting to help with the effect that I'm going for. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take another snapshot of what we're doing. And one of my favorite shortcuts is Command E on a Mac. When you have just a single simple layer, that is going to merge it down, a little time saver. Alright, so now we're going to jump into some actions. Same collection here, the Innocence collection. That's all we're going to be using today. I am going to, and he has nice little descriptions of what the actions do. I'm going to use Strega Nona. It's going to apply a soft red matte. I'm going to go ahead and push play. And it's just going to add a ton of red and a nice little matte effect to the image. Alright, so if you click the eyeball on and off, you can see it's a pretty big effect. I'm going to bring it down a little bit, maybe 44 there is where I'm going to leave it at. But I want it on the background. I don't necessarily want it on her. So we're going to mask it off. His action already has a layer mask, so I don't need to add one to the action. I'm going to come over here to my brush. I'm already on it, and I already have it set to black. And I'm going to make sure my opacity is up at 100%. And we're going to mask it off the subject. And you don't know how many times I've masked, thinking that I'm masking an effect off an image, and I don't have my opacity up to 100%, or I don't have the mask, I have it on white instead of black when I'm trying to mask it off, and really it's just masking it's not doing anything. Raise your hand if you've done that. I know you have, don't lie. Alright, so that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and go back to my Histories tab and take a snapshot. And since this is a more involved layer, I'm going to go up to my layer and flatten image, because if I just do merge, it's not going to collapse the whole layer. Unfortunately, there's not a shortcut that I know of to do that. So you have to go up and click. All right, so next we're going to apply another action. So we're going to go back, same action set, and the one that I used next for this one was corduroy, which is going to warm this up. It's the description Sweet Heat. All right, there it goes. All right, so this is more what the effect that I'm looking for, nice and strong. And honestly, usually I don't go as strong with these actions, but again, I really wanted a rich effect to this image. Typically I'd be lowering the opacity, but for this particular image, for this particular image, I'm not going to. I like what it's doing. I'm going to leave it at full opacity, which is 70%. I'm going to go ahead and take a snapshot. Layer, flatten, discard, okay. All right, so now I want to add a little bit more contrast into the subject. So I'm going to do a small curves layer. I'm going to, and I typically adjust the curves layer at these intersections here and here to create a little contrast. So I'm just going to bump that up a skosh, and how many times am I going to say skosh? Lower that one a little bit. All right, so if I play that on and off with the eyeball, you can see what it does. It's a little bit more richness, contrast to the image. And I'm actually going to leave it globally. All right, I'm still on my history panel here, and I'm going to take a snapshot, and then I'm going to do Command E to merge the layer. All right, so next I'm going to go back to the actions panel, and I want this image to be a little bit more matte. And we're going to scroll down. All right, we're going to use under his finishing touches, the stone soup. I'm going to push play. All right, and that's running. Okay, so I'm going to take that off, put that on to see the effect. It's stronger than I would like, and I'm going to reduce the opacity over here. Just kind of watch my image as I move the slider down. All right, that's a little closer to what I want, but I want it on the background. I don't want it on her. That is the lovely Jasmine. That is her name. She's a total sweetheart. I've known her for a while. She ended up having a beautiful baby boy. All right, we're gonna mask this off her. So, sorry, I started that without talking. I got distracted, squirrel. So I'm gonna make sure that I'm on my layer mask over here. I'm going to make sure that this is black, and I'm on my brush, and the opacity is 100%. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit, and I'm going to click back on her. One shortcut that I probably use the most in Photoshop is changing the size of my brush. When I learned this shortcut, it was like game changer, even though it's something so simple. To change the size of your brush without having to go up here, you just use your brackets on your keyboard and it changes the size. So awesome. All right, so just masking off her, make sure I get it all, and that looks good over here when I look at the mask. Go back up to my history, take a snapshot, and since it's a more involved layer, I'm going to layer flatten image. All right, so since we were running out of time to put these butterflies in our hair, like I mentioned earlier, it didn't bother me so much that we didn't put any over here because that's further away from us. I wanted to fill a couple of the gaps in her hair, so I was going to clone this a little bit. Add a couple extra butterflies. So another shortcut I'm going to do is to create a duplicate layer, which I do often in Photoshop. So that's Command J. Right, and I'm going to use my clone tool over here, clone stamp tool. I'm going to, oh, it is set on my watermark. That was probably an accident. I must have done that when I meant to do it to my brush earlier. I'm going to zoom in so that we can see her hair better. All right, so we're going to pick, let me go back. I think I'm going to grab this butterfly and I'm going to fill that gap right there. So I'm going to make it to where I'm not cutting off the wings at all. And I'm on my duplicate layer over here. I'm going to hit the Option key, and now I'm going to move my butterfly. I'm going to click and add it there. I actually click twice so it makes it a little, let me see, yeah, a little stronger on the second click, but you notice it picked up some of her extra strands. So I'm going to, actually I'm going to keep going. I'm going to put that same butterfly, oh, did I take it off? Let's sample it one more time. Option click, and we're going to move one right there too. 2 clicks to make it a little bit stronger. Now I'm going to put on a layer mask so that we can mask off some of the hair around it. So I'm going to go to my brush. I'm going to make sure that it's black because we're going to mask it off, and opacity is 100%. Okay, and brackets again. Remember, life-changing shortcut. I'm just going to mask the hair off around that clone so it's still the hair that's actually supposed to be there and not from where we sampled. Okay, and we're going to do that up here as well. I might click back on white to come in, make sure I didn't get the wings. I'm going to mask the wings back on if I got it, because I'm using a soft brush. So, and let's do that down here to this other smaller butterfly. Well, not smaller, but the one lower. All right, so now if I click with the eyeball, and you notice, that's so funny, I just pointed with my finger, like you could see where I was pointing. If I click this eyeball off, I can tell that there's some extra hair that I missed, so I'm going to come back over here, make sure my brush is set to black, and come out here wider, mask off, same up here, go a little bit wider, click on the eyeball, Okay, I am satisfied with that. Maybe. I'm not typing or anything. I'm going to come back here on the wing and just make that a little stronger. All right, so history brush, not history brush, snapshot in my history, and Command E to flatten. All right. So the next thing, I'm going to brighten her lips up. Her lipstick was kind of fading, but we were kind of rushed here at the end, so I'm going to get her lip color a little bit brighter. We're going to use the selective color again. We're going to go into magenta because her lips have more magenta, and then we're going to bring up both the magenta. Oh, sorry, we're going to bring up the magenta within the magenta first. I'm going to stop at 19. You can slide it way over to see. And if I remember right, when I was doing this, I just kind of played around. I'm like, well, is there, red in her lips? Let's see what adjusting the red within, or the magentas within the red color does. So I brought that way up, and ignore the rest of the image. Just look at her lips. So I'm going to go to 50, and I even brought up the yellow way up. Now I'm going to invert this this layer mask, which the shortcut to do that is Command I to invert it. I'm going to just paint it on her lips. So my brush is, since we're painting it on, not off, this should be set to white, and again double checking that I'm at 100%, using my brackets. to adjust the size. All right, there we go. So her lips are nice, brighter red. I'm gonna click that on and off. I don't think that's too much. I think it's just enough Goldilocks. And I am going to zoom out and see how that looks. I do that quite a bit too, zooming in and out. How does it look zoomed in? Did I, was I sloppy with my mask? Zoom out, how does it look overall? So I do that quite a bit too. Another shortcut when you're on the magnifying glass, zooming in and out. So I have it defaulted to zoom in. When I click with my mouse, it zooms in. If I want to zoom out, I hold down the Option key while I click and it zooms out instead of coming up here to switch back and forth. I love shortcuts. All right. So now I'm going to take another snapshot. I'm under my history panel here. Snapshot. And since it's a single layer, Command E to flatten or merge. All right, so now I'm going to liquefy her. This is probably an area of controversy, but I, among with probably 99% of the women out there, would probably like to be liquefied every day when they wake up, right? Am I right? But some people are against modifying somebody's body, but I am for it. Pro liquefy here. All right, so I created a duplicate layer, Command J. The shortcut to go into liquefy is Shift Command X. Again, that's Shift Command X. All right, so here we are in liquefy. And to increase your brush size, you can use those lovely brackets on your keyboard again. Changes the size of your brush or your, let's see, what is this tool called? The forward warp tool is what I use when I suck people in or pull things out. The only thing I'm going to adjust on her, I'm going to bring her arm in a little bit and her shoulder down just a little bit. Nothing crazy, nothing too dramatic, but she wouldn't even notice it, honestly. And that's usually my goal, is to tuck someone in just enough to where it would make them feel a little bit better about themselves without knowing it. Okay, so I'm going to press OK. And if we look at the eyeball, click it on and off, very subtle. Okay. So I'm going to Command E to merge that. All right, so I'm going to run Portraiture next. It is a plugin. Oops, scrolling through my history panel is not going to help find it. So I created an action, but it is not an action. Portraiture is a plugin. I'm sure most of you own it or have heard about it. I have it hidden. I think I have it hidden in Paintbox because I use it on all my newborns. So Portraiture here. If I go to my filters, it is made by this company, and if I clicked on Portraiture, it would go into the plugin. But again, I created an action for it to where I don't have to do that, so I can just press play. And it's going to run it globally on the image. There are, like, I'm sure you guys know by now, there's like 1,000 ways to skin a cat. I hate that saying, but there you have it. I just used it. There's many ways to do things in Photoshop. There's many free actions out there other than paying for Portraiture, but this is just something that I bought a long time ago and I continue to use it. So I'm going to invert this layer. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to mask it off. I don't mind that it's going to be applied to the background. I just don't want it on her hair and her eyes and her lips and her hands. So I'm going to make sure that I'm on the layer mask, that I have my brush activated, and that I'm on black here. And I'm at 100%. Are you tired of me saying that again? But I'm just going to make sure that I double check that I have those things highlighted so I don't look stupid and blindly paint on an action when I should be painting it off. All right, masking it off her hair. I'm gonna mask it off her lashes and her brows. So I don't want those to go softer. I want them to stay sharp. Her lips. And can I say, I mean, that this mama said, I don't really take good pictures, so I'm really nervous. Isn't that funny? Well, it's not funny, but women, we are our own worst critics. She's gorgeous. Okay, so mask, eyeball on and off. Just gives her a nice soft look to her skin. Alright, I'm going to take a snapshot of it. And I'm going to Command E to flatten the layer, merge the layer. Alright, so one thing that I make sure that I do with outdoor images, it wasn't really windy that day. Her hair's not totally out of control, but I zoom in to make sure there's not crazy flyaways going on. And you know, that little bit of what she has going on doesn't bother me. But if she did, I would go over to my tools here. And I typically, since the strands are so skinny, I would probably use my spot healing brush tool. Photoshop does a pretty good job. If you were to, you know, say you didn't like that, you would just click on it and it samples what's around it. It does a pretty good job. And I would do that with a layer, a duplicate layer, but we don't need to do that with her. So the last thing that we're gonna do is we're gonna just brighten her face a little bit, just to highlight her skin. So I'm gonna zoom out. I just clicked on my magnifying tool and I'm gonna click Option on my keyboard, hold the Option key down and click out. I'm gonna come over here to my adjustments and click the curves adjustment layer. And I'm going to bring up the midtones. So to control the midtones, it's clicking right here in the middle and pulling out. So I just wanted to kind of highlight her skin here. So I'm going to invert the layer mask to where it takes away the effect. I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here. I'm going to have my paintbrush activated. And I'm going to turn this to white because we're going to mask on that curves adjustment. So I'm going to kind of paint on the top of her arm and her whole hand, because it's a little dark there going into shadow. Maybe back there. I kind of got on the background a little bit. You gotta be careful when you're painting around from light to dark, because once you sharpen it for web, you can see halos. And we're going to do that on her face. So I switched back to white on my thing there, and we're just going to lighten her face, down the bridge of her nose, up top here, maybe on the middle of her lips and her chin here. Alright, so if I click the eyeball tool, you can see it's where her skin's already kind of light, it's just lightening it up more. Alright, so let's click on magnifying glass and zoom out. Option key held down and click. And again, let's look at the eyeball. And there we go. Alright, I think we made it. So this is the final edit. Let's go back to our history and we can click on the before. So pretty image, but a little dull. And let's go back to our final edit. Whoa! So again, this is a little heavier edit than I normally do, but that's what I wanted to achieve with this image. Nice fall-looking background where she just pops off of it in this beautiful red dress and these butterflies in her hair. So, anyways, thank you guys for joining me with this edit. I hope I didn't bore you too much and you learned something new. And one last shortcut, Command S is the shortcut to save an image, and I save my images as 12 quality JPEG. Alright guys, thank you so much for joining me, and